Right now, dozens of oil tankers are sitting outside the Strait of Hormuz, and the world's biggest navies can't reopen it. Iran didn't do this with warships or a naval blockade. It used cheap drones and triggered a mechanism almost nobody is talking about. The 1973 oil crisis removed 7% of global supply and broke the world economy for a decade. This removed 20%. So how exactly did Iran and a London office pull this off? Here is the full breakdown.
How do you do that? The power that brought global trade to its knees wasn't a naval fleet. It wasn't a wall of mines. It was something way more subtle and, honestly, way more effective. To get how it worked, we first got to look at what exactly was being blocked. The Persian Gulf just went quiet. Tanker traffic completely plummeted. Oil prices went through the roof. And the whole world was just scrambling to understand how a blockade like this could even happen, with basically no military force in sight. To really wrap your head around the scale of this crisis, you have to understand the place at the center of it all, the Strait of Hormuz. You can think of it as the planet's single most critical energy artery. Every single day, 20 million barrels of oil flow through this one narrow strait. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that one choke point handles a fifth, 20%, of all the oil shipped by sea on the entire planet.
And who depends on that oil? Well, basically everyone. But as you can see, back in 2024, an absolutely staggering 84% of it was headed for Asia. For a country like China, a full third of all its imported oil had to get through this one, tiny, 21-mile-wide passage. So, what was it? What finally lit the fuse on this global powder keg? Well, it all started with a very high-stakes military operation. It all happened so fast. February 28th, a joint US-Israeli strike on Iran kills the supreme leader. Iran's response was almost immediate. The very next day, a tanker, the Skylight, gets hit by something. Then another ship gets hit. By March 4th, just a few days later, Iran's Revolutionary Guard basically announces they're in control. And boom, tanker traffic just collapses by 70%. Now, this is the crucial part. Iran didn't need to sink every ship in the Gulf. They just needed to prove that they could. All it took was a few cheap drones, some small projectiles, just enough to send a clear message that this waterway was no longer a safe passage. And yeah, the world received that message loud and clear. But see, that physical threat, that was just the trigger. The real weapon here wasn't the drone that hit the Skylight. The real weapon was something you'd be more likely to find in an office building in London than on any battlefield. It all comes down to this one little thing: war risk insurance. You see, every commercial ship is required to have this special policy to go into a high-risk area. It is absolutely not optional. If you don't have it, you cannot legally sail. It's a non-negotiable rule of maritime law. Just think about the math here. Before this crisis, insuring a $100 million tanker for one trip through the strait would cost you, say, $125,000. It's a lot of money, but it's manageable. After the attacks, the insurance companies just stopped. They wouldn't offer coverage at any price. The risk had become completely incalculable. So, with the strait shut down by an insurance clause, what happened to the rest of us? Well, the shockwaves shot across the entire global economy. To put this into perspective, just look at this comparison. You remember the infamous 1973 oil crisis, right? The one that caused chaos for years? That took 4 million barrels of oil a day off the market. The Hormuz closure, it took 20 million barrels offline. It was 5 times bigger. The result was, of course, immediate and brutal. The price of Brent crude oil just surged, peaking at $126 a barrel. We're talking about a price spike that was faster and more severe than any conflict had caused in a very, very long time. And it was never just about gas prices. Making aluminum, for example, takes huge amounts of energy. So aluminum prices soared. Fertilizer production, also really energy intensive, which means food prices were next to go up. It even disrupted the global supply of helium. And then you had countries like Iraq, who had nothing to do with the conflict, and suddenly their oil exports were completely paralyzed. But here's the strategic masterstroke. Iran didn't slam the door shut on everyone. Oh no. They selectively allowed tankers that were heading to neutral countries like China and India to pass through. So not only did they create this crisis, but they were also profiting from the higher prices it caused, all while using access to the strait as a powerful tool of economic diplomacy. So, when you boil it all down, what's the fundamental lesson from this whole actuarial blockade? What are we supposed to take away from this? I know the obvious question, why not just send in the military? But the reality is just so much more complex. That strait is a narrow kill box. It's incredibly easy to target ships with shore-based missiles and drones. Trying to escort every single tanker would be insanely high risk. And crucially, key allies in Europe and Asia just said, nope, not our war. And this just perfectly shows the profound asymmetry of modern conflict. The cost for Iran to trigger this entire crisis was minuscule. We're talking maybe a few $100s for a drone. The cost to the rest of the world, it was immediate and it was measured in the trillions. That is leverage on a scale we have never seen before. And that kind of leaves us with a final, pretty unsettling thought. The world ignored this huge vulnerability until it was way too late. So it makes you wonder, what other critical choke points in our supply chains, our energy grids, our financial systems, what other single points of failure are we all looking at right now, but completely failing to see?